Hi, and welcome to another Lorenzo's Music Podcast. I am Tom Ray, and on this show, I like to talk to musicians, and I like to talk to people that create things for musicians, and I also like to kind of delve into the open source, open web sort of realm. And today, I am talking to someone who has built something for musicians, does things for musicians, does more than that, and that's what we're here to find out more about. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell the people what it is you do?
Hi, I'm Robert Kaye. I am the founder of MusicBrainz, and as I like to call, the lead geek of the MetaBrainz Foundation, which is the nonprofit that organizes MusicBrainz as well as several other projects. And what do? I created that project 25 years ago because, there was a precursor project to that as well. We can go into that tangent if we need to.
Okay.
About open source communities and so forth. And I started that project because the CDDB database was taken private. Quick reminder of that, CDDB was this database that was one of the first open databases. This was before the terms open source was even coined for having the information as to what's on a CD, because the track titles were not actually put on a CD, very intelligently enough. And a couple of college kids made a database and allowed other people to contribute to it. And I typed in a couple of hundred CDs because I thought this thing was great, right? And then actually one day to the next find out that they'd taken this private and sold it off to a big company. They all, pocketed a few million, which is big money back then. And they went on about their happy business, and I was pissed off. And I continue to be pissed off. So pissed off all the time that this happened, that at one time, standing there continually kvetching to a friend at a party back in California, and he said, man, just shut up. It's time to start your own open source project, and just leave me alone. Just start your own project. And he turned heel and walked away. And I was like, and that was literally the beginning of the very impetus of MusicBrainz.
Wow.
Like I said, I'm skipping a couple of steps, right? But he really, got me to act. He got me to do things, right? There was a quick precursor project called the CD Index, and I had no idea about open source, no idea about communities, nothing. I started hacking on some Perl scripts because I got fired from a really shitty job, and I was wondering what to do next. And then there was a Slashdot post. And the Slashdot post said, hey, what are we doing as a replacement for CDDB? And I sat down and buckled down, finished a couple of scripts, and then I said, I've got the replacement for CDDB. And then the Slashdot effect came down on me, and my site crashed. And everyone and their brother came and started shouting over how everything like SQL will never scale. You cannot build a web page like this. All these other things.
I love it. They instantly went into you used the wrong thing instead of what a great thing you did.
Alan Cox showed up and was insistent that we use basically CD lookup over DNS and all kinds of other really, really bizarre things. The community, since I didn't know how to manage it, went toxic immediately. It was just a shit job, and I wanted nothing to do with it. And I got disillusioned with the whole thing, and I just kind of walked away from it. Then came the .com crash. And I had my beloved S2000 Honda Roadster, which is still the best car I've ever driven. So fun. And I had to do some soul searching. I had to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to go move to the Bay Area? And I was living in San Luis Obispo at the time. Move to the Bay Area and work on somebody else's dream and keep my dream car. Or work on my own dream and sell my dream car. By the way, I've regretted selling every single Honda I've ever sold, to be honest. That said, I sold the car and buckled down and said, okay, this needs a better name. This needs to be forward-looking. This needs to not just be about CDs. It needs to be about music, because CDs are on the way out. My timing was a little off on that one. And we need to look towards future digital, yada, 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 yada. And I decided to call it MusicBrainz. And started working on MusicBrainz and got a little bit of traction from people, because I was also working on the FreeAmp project, which was sponsored by eMusic, my next employer then, which was all fun and good. And I just piggybacked off of that. And I don't know, for a year or so worked on the site and was like, okay, a database is now cool enough. I think we should reset the database and now we can start fresh. And everyone absolutely flipped their lid and said, no, you can't restart. we've been working on this. This is fine. And I was like, okay. And literally that database is what exists today. I mean, we've dragged it along through, many versions of database changes and all these other things, but it's been in continuous operation ever since, right? And it's grown into a much more significant sort of project than I ever dreamt it would. And it's touched so many more people's lives than I ever thought it would. To put it into context, in a lot of ways, we are now an elemental cog in the infrastructure of the internet when it comes to music, anyways, right? So, and the thing when, we're not very well known unless you like tagging your music collection and so forth. But in general, we're not really one of the better known open source projects. And we're okay with that. We're okay with that because it's all about communities, and communities don't like runaway growth. So we're actually kind of cool with that. But we find ourselves in this position of actually being these kind of strangers, but we can walk into any room and say, like, our data is on your phone. Right? And not be lying about that, because everybody's got either an iPhone or an iOS phone in their pocket, and it's got like YouTube music, or it's got Spotify, or it's got something in it that's got our data in it, right? And people are like, whoa, really? It was like, yeah, but we're the internet backbone for music metadata. I mean, okay, you've got Gracenote and you've got other companies and so forth, but the open stuff is obviously going to win the day, right? Because everyone can use it. And, that's where everyone can use it is one of the early axioms that I put in place. No barriers to entry to get data in. And remove the barriers to entry, make it as easy as possible for people to get hooked on our data. And I literally called it a drug dealer business model, right? First one's always free, right? But then you come and you want to use it in a commercial context. Fuck you, we got you, right?
Look here, Walter White.
In a lot of ways, sure, right? So we made it easier for people to dive in and to use the data, and including for commercial purposes, right? We spoon feed this to other companies on an hourly basis, and
I mean that is the thing on open source, is that oddly enough, it is also used to make copyrighted and corporation, like they're built on open source things. So, and that's the point of it. Now, there are a few things I want to ask you about too. Now, first of all, where are you located right now? Because you were talking about being in San Luis Obispo and the Bay Area, but right now I know I'm talking to you and you have a time difference from me. So you are in a different location. Where are you currently located?
I'm in Barcelona.
Barcelona. Wow. Nice. Okay.
So I am originally German. Well, I still am German. Grew up there for 13 years. Moved to the States, ended up in San Diego, graduated high school there, and then went to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. Okay. And I said, like, when this amazing community of friends dissipates and breaks apart, I'm leaving the United States. That only took another 26 years. So, and then after 26 years, the group of friends was finally done, and I packed up my stuff about 12 and a half years ago. So, and moved to Barcelona because I realized I didn't need to be in California anymore. I prefer to live in Europe, and I've always wanted to live in Barcelona. So, Barcelona.
I mean, why not? I would like to too. Maybe that'll happen for me soon.
The key there is that European passport, right? Because at that point, it's just pick up sticks and go, right? Like not having to deal with a visa or any of that. Key.
My actually, on a side note, my sax player just did, like, there's some sort of thing where you can apply for citizenship if you have a relative or some sort of lineage to, I want to say Yugoslavia or something like that, but you could actually get one where you can freely move between the US, and he's actually applying for that. Not that he's going to do it. It's just like, oh, that's kind of a neat idea. And he's just doing it for the sake of doing it. And also just like, you never know. So something I'd never heard of before. Yeah.
Very smart.
Anyway, and the other thing I wanted to mention too, and this is, first of all, going through that story, mentioning some of the things totally forgot about. CDDB, which I forgot existed. So you clearly did, or at least in my mind, your part, because it pissed you off. I remember when it closed down, or it was difficult to use, or you had to, I don't even remember what. what the deal was, but it was like, it was hard to attach it to things, or you couldn't connect it to certain players or some dumb thing like that.
Yeah,
And I want to say that's when I discovered MusicBrainz as well, because I also around that same time was toying around with, I was dual booting Linux computers. I was using a Windows computer, but I was learning Linux, and I think Breezy Badger on Kubuntu was the first distro that I ever installed. And I was trying to find ways to, as you said, get my CDs, that because then what you did is you put them on, your hard drive and listen to them on your favorite player, because that's what we did. Or, let's be honest, you downloaded it from wherever you could find it. But that was the thing, is all the information was garbage, or it was labeled wrong, or like, the CD, when you ripped it, you didn't necessarily have the right thing. So I want to say that's where I first heard about MusicBrainz. Now, I looked at my account, and I had been on there since I signed up in 2005. So
very nice.
Yes.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what you were just saying is interesting, because the whole my music collection is shit because I downloaded it off of Napster and has shitty tags, and I can't shove it into my clean, happy new iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
A boon for us, right? Because people came and needed to use Picard to clean up their music collection.
Yes.
And the the metric I always put out was, if somebody takes 1,000 hours of effort from us and gives us an hour back, we're happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same sort of thing with Picard. If you download all of this data and you add 2 or 3 new releases to the database, we're cool, right? Very happy with that. And that's basically how it worked. And there were tons and tons of people who came, wanted to get their database of files cleaned and tagged. And that's what helped us build a community, a company, and everything else around it, a nonprofit more specifically, around it, to let us actually get up on our own 2 feet to become a self-sustaining organization.
Mm-hmm. And did you, I wanted to know too, you said when you were talking to this person at the party, the person who basically got so pissed off it made you go, okay, yes, I will do something just so I can prove that you shouldn't be pissed off at me, sort of situation. But did you already have a programming background? Or did you kind of learn? Okay, all right, you did. Because you never know. It could be one of those things like, so I sat down and I read a bunch of books on how to run databases, and
no, it wasn't that far-fetched. I was more a graphics sort of geek, and a very budding, very early on web sort of geek. That was very early days when I jumped into that. And I'd always avoided database courses in uni because, like, oh my god, who wants to work with databases for the rest of their life? Yeah.
That's me. That's why I'm working on a Jekyll site right now, because I'm like, well, I can just kind of tell it what to do and give it the information I want and just write it into a text document, and then it spits it out, and it's just a regular HTML site, and I don't have to maintain a thing. Yeah.
Man.
Well, and that leads into the database itself. So now, the music database is a source of the information, but it's also, it can be maintained by, if you join as a member, but you also have people. Well, here's what I want to ask you. So I still get sometimes alerts that information that I put, and truthfully so, I mean, back then when I first started using it, I was using it to go, oh, this information's wrong on an album. But then as time went on, I just update my own band on it. So when we do a release, or but I will still get information of, like, somebody will correct it or go, oh, this one thing that we had shared it to no longer exists, and I'll get updates, like somebody's going through there and updating it. So is that the community? Is that people that works there?
No. So it's the community. And
nice.
When I explain about where the real value of MetaBrainz and MusicBrainz lies, there's no value in any of the source code. There's no value in any of the servers. There's hardly any value in the team itself, right? And there's no value in the database. The value itself is in the community, right? Okay. Because the database is like, when we start dumping the database, by the time the database dump is done, it's out of date, right? Because we update, things come to the database, once a minute or so, every 30 seconds, new edits are applied, right? But once those edits stop, the value stops, right? And the team does not edit. I mean, every once in a while we get some people that are confused, and we just look at it and say, like, it will take me 2 seconds to edit this or 20 minutes to try and explain this person how to edit this. And they don't need to go through this page. Then we'll fix it for them, right? As a sort of a customer support thing, right? But on the whole, our team does edit quite a lot. And I don't have a right-hand man per se, but one of my closest team members, he's got over 4 million edits or so, right? Just 4 million edits? Okay, let's see. I've had 4 million heartbeats and 4 million breaths and batted my eyelashes 4 million times, probably 4 million steps, right? But like 4 million edits to a database as a volunteer is insane, right? And unfortunately, and my hat off to D.R. Sonder, a longtime contributor, had been part of MusicBrainz for 18 years, recently died. Nice. And he made 300 edits to the database every day for 18 years.
Wow. Okay.
Right? I mean, when you start an open source project, I think everyone should have a moment of, I'm just clicking create repository or something, right? But we should have a moment to think of what might actually happen in the future, right? And this is a particularly good scenario, right? I can see that people have gotten married and bought houses and all of this other stuff because I started my open source project and community congealed around it, right? But this sort of message is actually a message that I think more people should really be thinking about when they start their projects because of the negative consequences, right? There's too few people that actually think about how could this thing that I've just created or I'm planning on creating be used for evil rather than for good. And interestingly enough, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein that's one of the key themes of the book, which of course doesn't come through in the horror movies that we get today, right?
Right.
To me, that what haunted me about the book was that the whole time he ran away from his creation the entire time. And while I can empathize with that at times, I still am, running the show. Running the show. And as much as an open source project like that, you ever run the show, right?
Right. Yeah. And it really is the community too. So you run it in the sense that you've created it, but it really lives through the way people use it and what gets done with it. Now, that being said too, we had talked about, MusicBrainz, the database, and you had also mentioned Picard. Now, Picard is actually an app or software. It's something you download to use and interact with MusicBrainz. Now, tell me how that came about, how you went from, it's essentially you built two separate things, but they had to connect. And one of them runs to update the ID tags on the files themselves. That's what Picard. Yeah.
So Picard was always, for me, when I first started looking at this project and how to make it work, I needed to identify what I call beneficial feedback loops, right? So the idea of a beneficial feedback loop is if someone can come in and say, okay, you have an application that makes it a lot easier for me to tag my music collection, and I do this thing, and then I give you a little bit of effort back, right? This creates this feedback loop where the people that are taking it are giving, right? And the ratios don't have to be perfect. Like I said, you can be really lopsided and still work perfectly fine, right? And so this feedback loop, Picard was our original feedback loop that then allowed the hordes that had their shitty Napster collections to tag their collections, for us to build our database and for everyone to walk away a bit happier, right? So Picard is that tool, and Picard in use, it's 20 years old, right? Yeah. So Picard in its use for, I don't know, in the middle of 10 years there were a few releases. It wasn't particularly, there wasn't a lot of happenings. But now, and I'm sure you're aware of this as well, is that a lot of people are really pissed off at Spotify. And Spotify is no longer really serving a lot of communities. And so people are now going back to their music collections. And myself, I've dusted off my collection, and I've got a copy of Navidrome that I'm looking at right here on the desk that I'm streaming from and so forth. And I'm much happier doing my own thing, because when I upload a release to my server, it's not going to disappear tomorrow, right? It can't be said for Spotify anymore. So what we're seeing is a resurgence of people that are really pissed off by Spotify to go back to take care of their own music collections. This sort of personal digital sovereignty over your own music experience, which I'm really behind, because Spotify and everyone else have pretty much let us down in the grand scheme of things. So people are rediscovering their music collections and falling in love with them. And this is actually, believe it or not, where I'm doing a lot of work, because the work that we're doing at MetaBrainz extends far beyond just MusicBrainz. We also have the ListenBrainz project, which is like
Yes.
Last FM, right? Which is it's a completely different thing and quite complementary to MusicBrainz. And I'm personally working on another project called ListenBrainz Local. And the idea with this, and this was actually
That one I don't know about. Yeah. Tell me about that.
it's not out yet, right? It's still early
Okay. All right.
days. But when I was thinking about MusicBrainz and creating MusicBrainz, I was originally kind of pissed off by the fact that, come on, it's the year 2000, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're still picking this track, and then picking this album, this track. Like, isn't there a better way to do this, right? I was wishing for a recommendation engine, basically, right? The terms weren't coined yet and all of that. I said, like, I want to write that. What do I? Oh, I need data. Oh, I need a mountain of. Okay, let me do MusicBrainz. Right? Let me work on that for a few years and then come back to it. Literally, it's taken me almost 25 years to get back to that. But now the whole getting back to it is we've been working on building recommendations with ListenBrainz and all of these tools for music discovery. If you go to ListenBrainz and go to the Discover tab, there's some really cool stuff, including the fresh releases, which just shows you everything that's coming up. And it's custom tailored to your music taste because we know what you're listening to. So when an artist you've listened to more than 3 times has a release coming up, it shows in your feed. It's really cool. You need to check it out. It's really, really nice, right? So we build all these tools, but there's a lot of people who's like, that's nice. I don't use Spotify. What do you got for me, right?
Yeah.
So to basically build these tools, but to actually do them for local collection is a completely different headache. Right? And you can't just say, hey, upload the contents or the metadata of your collection to our server. We'll make recommendations for you. That's 1, too much data. And 2, as you said, we don't always know what people downloaded their stuff from. They may not be entirely proud of where the provenance of their music collection. Fair enough, right? Privacy issues, that's a non-starter. So then the idea is like, okay, you have to actually go into the user's collection and then scan the collection, match it against MusicBrainz. And that's a big one, right? That's the job of Picard, but I'm working on a new engine to make all of that easier. So there'll be an adjunct. If you download a tiny little file for Picard in the future, which is looking to be about 63 gigabytes right now.
Oh, Jesus.
It will drastically turbocharge your tagging abilities in Picard, but that's sometime for next year.
Yeah.
But the idea then behind ListenBrainz Local is something that's like a Navidrome, like a locally hosted music collection you would run alongside it. And the real challenge is that these other sorts of services have never really embraced everything MusicBrainz, because if not all of the collection is tagged with MusicBrainz IDs, the recommendation systems cannot work, right? Because the metadata is loosey-goosey, it just isn't going to work. So we have to require that the collection is 100% tagged with MusicBrainz, right?
Yeah.
It drops a lot of people off. And then these people won't add these sorts of features to their own services if they don't work for all of their users, right? So we're sort of taking the tough step and saying, we're working with MusicBrainz ID tagged collections. And if you don't have that, we're sorry, you can't play with that. Here are the tools to fix it, right? But the idea then is shove the recommendation, shove the discovery, shove all these things into a local tool that runs on your own service. You can inspect it. You can have all the privacy you want and so forth. And you can take some of the things from the cloud, like our recommendations, global recommendations, and then resolve them to your own collection, right? Which is a lossy process, right? Because your collection is a subset of what exists out there, right? But at least it's a start to start bringing recommendations and discovery tools to a local collection. And I think, and I'm hoping that's kind of where we can pick up a little bit of more users, because it's incredibly difficult to actually attract people to your project these days, because between shitty Google, AI, and so much spam, it's really impossible to get your project noticed.
Right.
So one of the key things that we want to do is basically build tools that feed into other tools like these Navidromes and the Gonix and so forth, of the funk whales of the world, so that we can basically piggyback off of their communities, right? Because they'll go talk to their communities and them's like, oh, wait, I can have recommendations for my funk whale. How do I do that? right?
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really into and still figuring out, but love the idea of and still learn every day, the Fediverse in itself too, where those things do talk to each other, and this project fuels the other just by the fact that they're able. You can look at one or follow one from each particular instance or type, or like I can follow the PixelFed account on my Mastodon account without having to go to PixelFed, that sort of thing, just to give an example for anyone listening who doesn't know what it is. And that's what you're saying. I also wanted to ask too, with reading some of that information, are you advancing or using a new way to do stuff that you had to accomplish this in the past? Like I know you've had Acoustic ID, which I always thought was great, which was an audio fingerprint, but you also have the MBID as well with the identifier. So are you still using those, or do you have a new method for doing this?
I mean, when I say MusicBrainz tagged collection, it's all about the MBIDs.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It's all about the MBIDs, and we've never wavered from that. That is our magic sauce.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Acoustic ID was never our project. It was created by a friend of ours, but they're just that's what he wanted to do, and I didn't want to do it. So he created his own project, and it's tightly integrated into MusicBrainz, and everybody's happy.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So
I just remember when I heard about those, I was like, that's an interesting idea that it takes an audio fingerprint. Okay, continue.
Now, here's something I want to throw out to you and to your listeners, which is an emergent pattern that I cannot wait, and I'm actively working towards this emergent pattern because it's going to be good.
Okay,
it's really good. So you're familiar when I just said funk whale? You nodded. You know funk whale?
Yes.
Funk whale has the feature of pods, and then you can join pods together. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a fan of funk whale, to be honest. A nice try, but the thing is that Fediverse model they've got is that I can choose to basically join another pod, and if I'm joining the RAAA infiltrator pod, that's going to go bad for everyone, right?
Okay.
So the security model, I don't really like this one. The better security model that I start seeing emerging is one where everybody's got their music collection on a subsonic interface, right? That's the interface that's under Navidrome and Funkwell and all these other ones. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you have your collection online, there's an API for it. Now you can start plugging it into different tools, right? So if you've got a collection and I've got a collection and my team's got a collection, and then we plug all of these sources into one tool, into one multi-source aware tool for music, I've just created my own Spotify. It's not nearly as expansive, right? But it's a streaming service because I'm pretty happy with the stuff I stream off of my own music collection. Now let's say I add another 5 or 6 music mavens to that, right? And now we have access to their collections, right? And then
so you're saying you'd be able to join different databases or different music databases of different friends, and you could all stream from the same thing,
and then recommend into the whole collection.
Okay.
The whole collection.
That would be the key. That's what I was going to say. Like being able to add to it even past those databases would be the key. Being able to update it. Now, what about, think of it this way. Let's get into this. I have some other questions. Now, let's go back to that recommendation sort of thing. I mean, that's really what it is it's like, I have a music collection too, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I want to listen to today. I can put it on shuffle and it's like, Jesus, it keeps giving me the same songs that I shuffle over and over again. So it's like, I want to pick by category. I just give me something that sounds like it. Even if I don't have it, you may like this. So go get it, that sort of thing, or go find it, or here's where it is. Would there be something like that? Are you talking about that where it's just going to be like, oh, listen to rock today, or create a playlist based on what the genre is? Would there be additives like that you're talking about?
There will be listening by color.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not kidding.
I like that.
ListenBrainz has this feature right now. It needs some refreshing and so forth, right? Choose a color, and it'll just pull up all the cover art that matches that color as a predominant color. And then you can start clicking on stuff and listening to stuff, right? Okay. So all turquoise releases from 1984, gimme. Yeah. Totally reasonable question. I don't know what I'll get, but who knows, right? Some people might really enjoy listening to that sort of stuff, right? I want to be able to to get some other ideas of what I'm talking about, ListenBrainz also has a concept called LB Radio. It's a very geeky sort of engine that lets you make playlists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can give it a seed artist and say, also include similar artists, and another seed artist, but don't include similar artists from that, and give me some tag radio and some of the stats of my favorite things that I played last year, and mix it all into one thing and play,
Yeah.
right? You can write a query, a prompt for that now, and it'll do all of that for you, right? So that stuff exists already, and I'm building this stuff to now work on local, right? So the music industry has this idiom and basically says discovery doesn't pay,
Mm-hmm.
which is why these discovery tools have, either never been created or have fallen by the wayside, right? Imagine if Spotify had some really incredible tools that would appeal to nerds like you and I, that will go deep into the music, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be fantastic, right? But it would be a huge amount of work, and the consensus is that you can't make money with that. Nobody cares about that, except for you and I. But you and I are statistically insignificant, so it doesn't matter. You can't make money off of that, right?
Yeah.
So that pisses me off to no end because, here we are, we're sitting here and Spotify keeps shoving the same shit in our faces, right? I mean, I still use Spotify, but now you can use Spotify with ListenBrainz. So ListenBrainz will actually try and do the best job as possible to give you new stuff without bias, right? And because we're not trying to sell you anything. All we want you to do is to actually get to the music that you want to listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have daily jams and weekly explorations that are discover weekly sort of things, right? And if you listen to a track yesterday and that playlist suggests you should listen to that track, you're not going to get that track because that would be overplaying that track, right? So every chief complaint by everyone here is just like, hey, you're overplaying this shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the things I'm working on is to make sure that we don't overplay things, right?
Okay.
And because the overplaying is a financial motivation on Spotify's part, because like, hey, this track we get, we have to pay low royalties on it or something like that, so we're going to favor this track, right? Which is just the evilness of Spotify through and through, and that's how the money influences the recommendations they've got going on.
Yeah.
And we don't do any of that. Right? All of our stuff, go read the source code, go look at it. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. We're participating in a streaming transparency project here in the EU and so forth. So we're really trying to be, the good people that are actually trying to help you understand music collection, your own music taste, and help you find more of what you want, and then connect to people and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
That is honestly our goal. And luckily, since we're a nonprofit, we function on a completely different economic model than everyone else does, right? So, I mean, our team is 9 people big with, 6.5 full-time equivalent, which is nothing for what we're producing on the grand scheme of things. Absolutely nothing. It's a round-off error on Google's daily operations, right?
Yeah.
So what we're able to do with all of this stuff is we have a very small team. We'd love to have a larger team, but the licenses coming in from commercial use covering for MusicBrainz data is only so large, and it's not something that I can choose to expand or contract the market, right? Like people either want to use the data or not, and there's not much else I can do about that. But still, taking donations from end users because running ListenBrainz is mostly hosting cost, right?
Right.
But hosting costs, like, okay, servers are not that expensive anymore. Now, if I can put, 4,000 users on a $50 server a month, now we can figure out what the per user per month cost is, and then make sure that the donations roll into that amount. Okay, we're cool. But we'll keep building stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really neat position to be in, to be running I call it a business running inside of a nonprofit. We don't really go out asking for money, right? So all we ever do is we basically run this database for the public, for the public to download, and then we take commercial support payments from people, donations from people, and that's it. Right. The irony about all of this, and we haven't talked business, I'll get into business for just a second.
I was kind of going to transition into that because you're raising some questions where it's like, I do want to know more about that. Yeah. Okay. Continue.
And this is tongue in cheek. If you look at it too closely, it falls apart a little bit. But the tongue in cheek version that describes our business model is we're 100% profit, non-profit, licensing free shit we don't own.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the 100% profit part is the weirdest part, because we run a nonprofit and we do everything for the people, right? And then we
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, hey, companies, if you want to use stuff, just download it there. And we don't have any incremental costs for an extra download. So the costs are zero, right? So when a company gives us money, we do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have the infinitesimally small accounting overhead where I have to send them an invoice and account for payments and shit like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not 100% profit, but it's like 99.99 or something. It's might as well be 100, right?
Yeah.
So, but we're running that inside of the nonprofit, and abiding by all the terms of the IRS so far, not really giving us any grief for what we're doing, and then licensing free shit. It's all public domain data. It's all CC0 on the whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Licensing free shit we don't own, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't own any of this stuff. It's just preposterous. So all we really do is we're the curators. I already described where the real value comes from, right? The value comes from the enormous community of people that are making changes to the database, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if you are an MBA and you come at this with your, I don't know, what are evil business models they try and instill in your head in an MBA, this makes no sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
This makes no sense. It will never work, right? And it's like, here's our balance sheet, and here's our profit loss. It'll never work. No, that's our actual profit and loss. Like, we're making money with this. We're not getting rich, but we're making money. It's never gonna work.
Right.
Right. So it's very weird, but fun. It's kind of fundamental. And then when I look at how to run the foundation, I don't want to run a foundation. I
Now,
want to
the
manage my
foundation, is that MetaBrainz? Is that the
yeah.
foundation? Okay. Yeah.
I want to manage a team. I want to do technical things, right? I don't want to run the foundation, but somebody's got to do it. So I've written a lot of software, not surprising, to basically run as much as possible, right? So a lot of things are automated. And at the end of the day, there isn't a whole lot of stuff that needs to be done, but somebody still needs to see after it all, and to deal with the accountants and the lawyers and everything else in between. And that's me. But
Mm-hmm.
so the other unofficial title is that I'm a bullshit umbrella. So whatever bullshit comes from the outside world, it hits me, and I protect my team from it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So lawsuit that's happened.
Oh,
It's like
really?
how they keep the lights on, all of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, the lawsuit wasn't particularly fun. If you want to go into details on that, I recommend. Yeah, Corey has a Boing Boing article on that
Cory
about charity
Doctorow?
profit. Yeah, um, search Boing Boing MetaBrainz lawsuit, and you'll find it.
I may have even read it, but I'm assuming it has something to do with, as it always does, even though you are not hosting any music, you're not doing anything that involves pirating music or anything like that, but you're hosting information about music. And they're like, well, you have the name of our artist on your database that's stealing, or something stupid like that, is what I'm assuming is what it's probably
Yeah,
about.
what you're assuming is the weekly fraudulent DMCA takedown requests that we get, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh no, you're downloading your no." There's no download links, right?
Yeah.
Like, just telling people that their DMCA request is fraudulent is wrong. There's a huge amount of effort.
Yeah.
But no, actually, what happened here was much more evil,
Hmm.
and I completely did not see this coming. So Wikimedia Commons hosts a lot of images for artists,
Yep.
right? So these are photographers of different types that will upload pictures of artists and then put them under Creative Commons licenses, right? What they don't really tell you is that they have their own criteria that they tack onto that about how Creative Commons attribution should be given.
Yes, most people do it as a drive-by, as what they think Creative Commons means you can use it for free, is what people think. And
Yeah,
it's true to
yeah.
a point.
But this photographer in particular in question was basically is like, no, you need to have attribution of my name in a 150 point font, bold print, blink. Otherwise, you're not getting proper accreditation, right?
Okay, all right.
Um, so, I mean, what this guy does basically is he harasses anybody that uses his images and just basically send me $10,000 and this problem goes away,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
And so he sued us, and we were like, no, we just ignored him as our board advised us, ignore him, like these people go away. This one didn't go away. He sued us, right?
Hmm.
We're lucky. We have a guardian angel, Ed Cavazos, at I forget the firm that he's with, but he's been our guardian angel for
Hmm.
many years, and he basically went to his firm, said, "Hey, can we defend these guys pro bono?" And they said, "Sure." So then they went pretty much on the offensive and
Hmm.
subpoenaed both Wikimedia and digital and Creative Commons, and a discovery of information quest to figure out like what the fuck is going on here. And we
Hmm.
discovered that Wikimedia Foundation is entirely happy to leave copyright trolls operating on their platform, and they have no enforcement against copyright trolls.
Hmm.
I was so pissed. I'm still pissed off by that. I will never contribute another fucking penny to Wikimedia Foundation. I'll tell you that,
Okay.
right? And we dug deep, and yeah, and the basic policy is like we don't want to do any enforcement in our community. And if somebody gets sued, whatever. But this
Right.
is a place
So our
of,
platform is for free use, Creative Commons licensing attribution, but we'll be over here. Let us know if you have any trouble, and we'll go. Sorry, I'm busy.
basically,
Sort of thing.
yeah,
That's interesting. Okay.
right. And when you get sued through the Creative Commons, and you try and actually talk to the Creative Commons through Wikimedia Commons and so forth, guess how much like can you pick up the phone and talk to them?
Hmm.
Of course not, right?
Right.
Can you get any help from them? No. Anybody that works for Wikimedia, when the word lawsuit comes, they're instructed to just stay mum and the conversations stop. So the
Okay.
lawyers figured this out real quick and basically just, subpoenaed them, right? Which really woke up Wikimedia and Creative Commons. They were just like, holy shit, what are you doing? I'm like, we have a good legal team. In the end, they basically hit the photographer so hard that he
Hmm.
basically he's like, "Oh, I'm tapped out. No, 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 no. I want to drop this," and then just dropped it, right?
Hmm.
But then
Well, I mean,
we
good. I
went,
mean, it's essentially like it's an individual, but yeah, that's like shutting down an entire spammer farm, or telemarketer farm. It's
yeah.
just like I
So
dig that. Yeah.
the guy basically went away, and everything was resolved. And I don't know if this is still the case or not. I haven't looked in a while, but at that point, the Wikipedia page for a copyright troll listed Philpot was the plaintiff's name, uh, Barry or Larry Philpot as a copyright troll example who was
Hmm.
operating on the Wikimedia Commons. I thought that was really brilliant. So that really blew up in his face. So because MusicBrainz has always played a very clean game on all fronts, we continue to have people who are willing to support us. Cory
Okay.
Doctorow has been on the board of directors for 21 years now. My
Nice.
directors have been there for, the other one celebrated 15 years the other day as well. I think, was it
Yeah.
15 years? My team has got a great tenure. The community members have great tenures and so forth. It's all about building a non-toxic place, which is incredibly difficult,
Hmm.
right? Especially in the internet where everyone just wants to fling poo at each other.
Hmm.
But it's really critical that you start off with, hey, this is a place where we're respectful towards each other, with continual reinforcement of that message every single time that somebody goes off the rails, and then empowering your community to do the same, right?
Hmm.
And then when somebody else comes in and it goes off the rails, they feel empowered to basically continue the line about how we're respectful towards each other.
Yeah.
That doesn't always work, but we have a community manager who people can report people to, and then they get thrown out of the community to basically keep the peace, right? And if somebody starts doing something illegal, oh man, they get tossed real fast. We
Hmm.
don't tolerate that sort of stuff, right? So there's a difference between having a completely uncontrollable community, and that's Wikimedia, and having a community that is not controlled, but you basically want to say you want to carefully set up your guidelines, not rules, guidelines for behavior, and anybody that's too far of an outlier just needs to get chopped off,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
I'm
simple.
on. On top of that, I want to add too. So you were talking before about how the different levels that there are to maintain, even though there's not a lot of people there, or it's not even a huge organization by comparative standards to a corporation, but it still is doing its work, making a profit. As you were saying that, here's the really weird thing, and it's funny that you are involved in the music side, and then me being a musician, like I'm kind of going as you're mentioning, you have to do this to do this. And it's not just, it's more than one thing. You do multiple things. And that's one of being a Creative Commons open source band ourselves. Like I've set it up so that we are able to run. I mean, we essentially just pay for our domain each year, and maybe like, I don't know, like $1 or something of server costs for, and we even, use open source operating systems, open source recording systems. Like I've maintained it so we have the smallest overhead possible, which I'm sure you've done too. But also on top of that, you can't just go, and then that's how we'll make the profit. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. So you have to think of other things that are related to like this stuff behind me. I like collecting vintage stuff, so I sell it. So that way I can fulfill my need to buy, collect it, and justify buying this stuff, but then I sell it to make a profit as well. Now, getting into that, I was just seeing how like, man, it's almost like musicians are nonprofit organizations, ironically. But so explain to me then how with ListenBrainz and being able to use it, and you mentioned that MusicBrainz is inside of so many things, and that's kind of where I want to get at with this whole thing today is like, so what is the organization as itself that keeps it alive, keeps it running, keeps it free from just being drowned in cost? Like what would you say is the key to all of it?
Me.
Okay. All right, I like that answer. And,
yeah, I mean, it's a terrible bus factor answer, right? And I'm very well aware of that. But fundamentally, we just have this philosophy of like, if we don't have to spend money, don't spend money, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
nobody in the company has the authority to spend money except for myself and the system administrator, who doesn't have access to the purse strings. But if he needs to order a new server because reasons, he can order a new server, right?
Mm-hmm.
That has impact, but. Yeah, and the whole idea is just like, how can we make it as lean as possible? So, how many assets do you think we have on the books?
I mean, probably I'm going to think a lot.
0.
I don't know. 0. Okay.
Right. We have an office in Barcelona, but like none of the assets, and there's furniture there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, technically the organization pays for my computer, right? So I guess that one computer, that one PC that's going to depreciate immediately is our asset, right?
Yeah.
It's not worth accounting, right? But we have no assets, right? We don't want any server. We have nothing. We have cash in the bank, right? That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have assets. And then, for instance, so we needed to move from the hosting facility we had in California to, we wanted to move to somewhere in Europe, and we needed to go in the cloud, as it were, right? This was now 10 years ago. And we did an exhaustive study of 3 providers, so 1+1 in Germany, Hetzner in Germany, and Amazon. Of course, everyone was basically like, "Oh, just go to AWS and be done with it."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we're like, wait a minute, we just published a long blog article that said we're going to Hetzner because AWS is 5 times as expensive as Hetzner. Right? And people didn't get that, right? But we just figured out, like, how can we do this as cheaply as possible? And this ethos is, I mean, sometimes you need to spend money, and we spend $15,000 in an annual summit where we fly the entire team either to India or to Barcelona, right? You do need to spend money on these things, but you can be really careful about where you spend your money, right? So rather than spending useless money on AWS, we went with the German company Hetzner. And our experience with Hetzner has been the strangest thing ever. So strange. We started off with, I don't know, 8 or 9 servers, and our bill was just under 2,000 euros. And then we expanded a little bit, and then we got to 2,000 euros. And for the last 8 or so years, our bill has been around 2,000 euros, and we're now with 50 servers.
Wow.
That wouldn't have happened to AWS, I tell you that.
No.
Right? It's been, I mean, the cost of their services has been so drastically shrinking that, we can just look at it as like, oh, we've had the server for 2 years. Let's just swap out the server, not because we have any problems with it, but we can swap out the server and get a cheaper one that's more powerful.
Yeah.
So and since we're a nonprofit, and we're a business running inside of a nonprofit, but then we have the 501c3 classification. So we can go and say to Sentry, hey, can you give us a free account? GitHub, can you give us a free account? We get all these free accounts from people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our services, one of the most important expensive services that we pay for on an ongoing basis that isn't hosting is our stupid QuickBooks account that is the to pay, right? That's just dumb. Like,
Yeah.
that's not $800 for that piece of shit software, right? But our accountants say we must do it, and our accountant's keeping us out of jail. So, all
Right.
right, QuickBooks it is, right? But this is the whole idea of not spending money if you don't have to. It just pervades, and it becomes a point of pride for us, right? And yeah, no, we do not have. I managed to buy a flat here in Barcelona by hook or by crook, and it was tough, right? This is not luxurious, but I want people to be paid fairly,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I have to be aware of like, hey, what's inflation in India doing this year? I have to know all these things where my team members are, so I can actually have a fair conversation about making sure the team is fairly compensated, right? And the second most important thing I do is to actually get the fuck out of my way of my teammates, right? Let them do their job, mostly because I'm lazy, right? But let them go do their jobs, and then they'll go do their jobs. Pay them well, let them do their jobs is a magic combo, right? And then you throw on top of it is like, hey, look, we're trying to spend as little money as possible because we want to do all these cool things, but what I can give you is a high quality of life. And people are like, yeah, okay,
Okay.
I can sign up with that, right? So we're all more or less of this, have you heard of the expression enough? I have enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a flat. I have what I need in Barcelona. I don't need to become rich. I don't need this. I have enough, right?
Yeah.
And life is more important, to go out, spend time with friends. And, I live in Spain where that is really important, right? And I'm here for a reason, for that reason, right? Because I really, I consider my move to Spain to be semi-retirement. I'm still working a lot of hours, but it's life has just become a lot easier, right? And the whole idea is if something's not working for us, we'll stop doing it, right? And then let's just not spend any money and let's be nice to each other. And if somebody says like, oh, we have a team meeting tomorrow, and somebody says, oh, I can't because I have a concert, we're all like, yeah, you're going to concert, right? You just got to have the right attitude, right?
Yeah.
And give your team the space to do the things, and you can do amazing things, absolutely amazing things.
All
So
right.
now I feel like I'm really babbling, but maybe
No. I mean, that's all very positive, and that's really what we all hope for when we want to imagine going into a business of our own, or even be part of a business that is doing something we love. And that's really just, hearing that, or the way that you're explaining, it's like, yeah, that's the way we all picture it. Like, even myself, I'm like, I just want to, I don't want to go like, I want to get a big mansion and fancy cars. It's like, no, I just want to do what I want to do and not have to worry about paying for the way I am now, just sustainable. I mean, that's all it really is. And sustainable really is the way to be. So, and so one more thing I want to ask you before we go today. You mentioned the projects that you've been working on, the ideas that you have. Now, what is there a timeline for when these are coming out? You were talking about sort of the music server, sort of the idea that just what you've been working on, the hinting at the projects that aren't available yet. When do you think we might be able to expect something like this?
Early next year.
Really? I mean, that soon?
Well, it's been in the works for a couple of years now.
Okay.
Right? Sort of like, everybody's got their own pet projects, right? And this is the pet project I've been working on. But the project I really need to work on is another tool for ListenBrainz, and then really complicated. But that's a scalability issue, right? We can see it's like, okay, we can take on another 10,000 users, and then we need to get another server or replace this piece of software with something better. And we want something better. So I've been working on that for months now. But that's top priority. When I get that one out, then I'm going to go to the walk in the park, the ListenBrainz local, and just pound out some really cool things. I mean, it's a point where people can start playing with it, but it's very rough, right? Like if another engineer wants to pick it up, I'd be very happy for that. But really, and I don't celebrate Christmas per se very much, so I celebrate the fact that it's going to be quiet. So I'm just going to go, have a week to myself. and then go cycling a lot, cook some good food, and then just hack the rest of the time and build stuff. And
I
I'm
mean,
probably the
that
happiest.
should sound so sad, but it doesn't. It seems it's so pleasant.
It's marvelous, right? As long as you can get over the fact that, like, well, I mean, I am not enamored with Christmas, right? I
Mhm.
was when I was a child, but nowadays I just see the stressors and all the capitalistic
Yeah.
motivations behind it. So easy for me.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been great. And I really have been looking, I mean, essentially, I've been using your stuff for years. So I love the fact that I finally get to meet you. So this has been fantastic.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's been a very fun conversation.